Welcome back. Our next guest is one of the country's brightest acting talents, having made his name in Love, Hate and Misfits. But it's his critically acclaimed role as Klaus Hargreaves in the mega hit The Umbrella Academy that has catapulted him to international fame.
Now, over lockdown, he somehow found the time to record The Earth Locker, a podcast with his Umbrella Academy co-star Tom Hopper, which aims to help us become better earthlings. Robert Sheehan, you are very welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, Robert.
I've become so allergic to that better earthlings thing. It seems so judgy, doesn't it?
Tell us a little bit, before we go into talk about your film and television work, tell us a little bit about the podcast. First of all, how did it come about, Robert? Whose idea was it? Who put it together? And what exactly do you talk about on the show?
The podcast sort of came about because we wanted to kind of start a few things, but initially it was a restaurant. It was an idea to create something really, really healthy, but create fast food. And in order to legitimize ourselves going into the hospitality industry, we thought we'd make a podcast and talk to people and sort of basically use it as market research. But then it kind of evolved from that place, and the sort of subject matters evolved. So depending on who we're talking to, we kind of, beforehand, we let the guest kind of lead with what they want to talk about. So, for example, the Frankie Boyle episode, he's so fascinated with simulation theory that was kind of mostly what we kind of go on about. So it really depends. It kind of came down to the mood of the guest on the day, a lot of it, you know. And then before the guest comes on, there's a lot of rambling and stuff between me and the other two.
There's a lot of messing.
Yeah, and you can actually tell that you're great pals. So it's yourself and Tom Hopper, and then another pal of yours who's a producer, I believe, Byron as well. And so all of you were participating in this together. What I loved about the podcast is, as I said, it's very relaxed, but at the same time, you all have a genuine thirst for knowledge. If you take the Deepak Chopra interview, you were hanging on his every word because he's such a fascinating person. I mean, that was a massive guest to have on. Was he top of your list, of your wish list?
Yes. He was top of the let's carry on wishing because it probably won't ever happen list. And Tom Hopper did a film with Gabriella Wright, who's another guest on the podcast. It's an episode that's yet to come out. And herself and Deepak are working on a project called neveralone.love. And she put us in contact, and we had both of them on separately. And both are like heavyweight, quite powerful, kind of pathos-laden episodes in their own right, you know?
And did you find that doing the podcast, Robert, sort of not got you through the lockdown? Because what has lockdown been like for you? Because you're one of the most in-demand actors. You're currently, filming that great series for Netflix. So your year, like everybody else, was upended. It was changed. So how did you deal with that? How did you deal with looking into the abyss and thinking, what am I going to do for the year? Did doing the podcast, did you find it in any way cathartic?
Yeah, massively. It was funny, when we started it off, I didn't really know why I was doing it or what my role in it was. It was sort of going like, I've got other outlets for creativity that frankly are more important. There was this sort of thought ticking around in my head. But then we did a few episodes, and each one we did was incredibly gratifying, and it just kind of drove us on to do more and more. So we did about 25 episodes, from the point where the lockdown eased kind of midsummer to nowish, really. So it's been mad, really. It's been a kind of a spontaneous project, I suppose, something that just kind of popped out of nowhere, but I'm very grateful that it did, you know.
Interesting you mentioned the spontaneity, because I would imagine as an actor, and certainly from Simon regaling us with stories over the years, you might have something in the pipeline that will be happening 6 or 12 months' time, or even further on until you get the green light. And just looking at the Umbrella Academy now, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm not a sci-fi fan, so I think it's far more of a general appeal to both sort of young adults and grown-ups like myself as well. But taking on a project like that for Netflix, I mean, that is a huge budget, huge audience. Was there a feeling of sort of, not anxiety, but apprehension that this is going to be huge now and amazing for my career, or perhaps it mightn't work out at all? Thankfully it did. But how were you before you took on the role?
To be honest, talking to you guys live on Irish television would give me more butterflies in my stomach
No.
than just wandering around on the set of Umbrella Academy. You know, nerves know no rationale, I suppose, you know.
Yeah.
They just kind of pop up. But the year's been strange because it feels like I'm rusty now. Do you know what I mean? In
Yeah.
terms of acting, in terms of that outlet of creativity, it feels like I'm very, very rusty, and I could do with going back and doing a couple of weeks rehearsal to kind of dust off the cobwebs, certainly.
One of your greatest loves, Robert, no more than myself, is the theatre. And, you know, I think, you know, actors will always say that that's our happy place, you know, and it's our home. A director's home is on camera or behind the camera. But in terms of what theatre has meant to you, in your career to date, how much do you miss it, and how eager are you to get back and just get the industry back on tracks?
Yeah, man. You know, it'd be lovely to get the industry back on tracks. I don't know if the industry will look the same after all this. But expression will still be there in one form or another, you know, because that sort of comes out of us. But yeah, it'd be lovely to go back on stage. I haven't been on stage since I was like properly on stage since I was 27. So that's like 5 years ago now. So I'd love, yeah, it is. It's kind of recharging, you know.
And is that something that you'd like to revisit then? Because I would imagine the Umbrella Academy and the filming that takes place, I don't know how long you're filming for, but I would imagine it's kind of all-encompassing because you're on location, you're away from family and friends. You can't really, you don't have the time to do anything else while you're there. And you are going into film the 3rd season shortly, aren't you? Is that early next year?
Yeah, and it'll be 7 months. It's a 7-month stint. So it's a good, you know, it is a fairly significant time away. It's a fair whack of time to kind of up sticks, and but it's a lovely place to kind of be sequestered to for 6-7 months. Toronto, it's a nice place.
Do you still, Robert? Do you still get recognition from the incredible screen performance you gave us in Love Hate? I mean, they're repeating it. They're repeating it at the moment, and I know they're repeating Bachelor's Walk on the same night. And I remember back shooting.
Nice one.
Yeah, they're repeating both, and it just, I know for me, it takes me back to that era. But I mean, there are people messaging me about both the shows. I mean, you must be getting a new audience to Love Hate. What a show to be a part of. We had Lark Kinlan on the show last week, and you know, he's still, as Anna Daly, our co-host, said, she has him in her phone as Elmo. Do you still get that recognition from it?
Yeah, it's lovely. You know, predominantly in Ireland. I was with Sean McGinley, and we were walking down the road in Dublin, and someone went, "Oi, Charlo!"
From the family.
And then about 5 minutes later, when someone was like, Darren, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I've been getting that for 20 years, man. So get used to it. It's going to be the same thing. But it's great, you know. I suppose it's a testament to the fact that Ireland united around a TV show, you know, in a very kind of a amazing way.
Well, it's testament to the work, and as actors will always say, it's testament to the writing, Robert. The writing was so good.
Yeah.
You know, if the base material is good to start off with, you guys are then put in front of it to speak those words. It's really a testament to the writing, isn't it?
Yeah, Stuart Carolyn.
Yeah.
He's the man. He's the man.
He's the man.
Can we just go back to your podcast? Because one of the stories really struck us, and I was thinking we really want to hear more about this. And you had this incredible story, and I love the behind-the-scenes gossip that you're sharing among yourselves. And for anyone who's mad into movies, definitely download the podcast, because you do get a bit of an insight from you guys. But you are talking about Nicolas Cage, and I suppose it brings me back to the method acting versus the sort of Olivia Colman's way, who just is able to walk in, light up the room, the screen, the camera, and has admitted herself that she does very little research. This is her way of doing it. So Nicolas Cage was is known for being a method actor as well. So what happened there when you were on a film together?
Yeah, we were all sat around artificial campfire in the forest. There we go. Look at that.
What happened there?
Production value on Ireland AM, I tell you.
On the ball.
School mornings. But we were around a campfire and we were all laughing too much. And every time, like, so it was, you know, Stephen single, Ron single, Nick single, and everybody kept laughing uncontrollably. And sometimes that can be incredibly contagious and difficult to get rid of. Simon Delaney, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And so it got round to Nick's single, and he got very, very nervous that he was going to be uncontrollably laughing. So he stuck his hand into the fire to try to, serious himself up. I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
And it didn't really work.
It didn't work at all. Well, obviously he hurt himself, and then you were probably didn't know what to do, laughing or crying at that point.
Yeah, mostly laughing. I think, mostly
So when are you back to work, Robert? What's ahead of you now in the next 6 months? When do you go back on set?
Kind of New Year's, just after New Year's, head over, do the quarantine if that's still imposed,
Yeah.
over in Canada. And then I'm pretty much there until kind of autumn, really.
The autumn time. And maybe a trip home will be on the cards by then, and perhaps and hopefully the world will have returned to normal.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's all hope for that. I saw the headline pop up, 7 out of 10 would take the vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's what they're saying today, and supposedly going to roll it out early next year. Robert, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you this morning. Thank you for getting up and taking the time to chat to us.
Not at all. You fulfilled a childhood dream. God bless.
God bless, Robert. Stay safe and well. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Robert.
Right, Robert Sheehan's podcast, The Earth Locker, is now available on YouTube and all major listening platforms.
Love him.
A gentleman.
Absolute gentleman.